Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this episode of Podiatry Marketing. With me is Jim. Jim, how are you doing today?
Things are good, Tyson. I'm excited to talk about tonight's topics.
Okay, let's get straight into it. What is the subject? This is your focus.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about Facebook, the evil empire. I don't know, there's a lot of wild stuff about what Facebook is and what Facebook isn't these days, but it definitely is a platform, probably the most prominent social media platform that a lot of podiatrists have and use on a consistent basis. So we're going to get into the basics, how to use it, how not to use it, what type of content to put on there, and just how to make it a place that's a little bit different than your website. It has a little bit of a different angle, so you're not just trying to replicate your website on Facebook.
Okay, so I would say nearly every podiatrist I know that has a business, has their own business, has a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
I'd say they all do it. So where do you want to start with what they should be doing?
Yeah. So I guess the first reason why most people do it is that that's where a lot of people are, at least like around our age or maybe a little bit younger. I don't know. Most of the super young generations, maybe on TikTok or on Instagram or Snapchat or something. Exactly. Doing dances. But that's the reason why people will make a Facebook page, is because instead of having, obviously, along with the website, people are just scrolling, looking for old high school classmates. I don't know, just mindlessly scrolling on Facebook a lot. And if your clinic is there, it's there because there's people that are there on it. I think that one of the first steps that's really important, though, is to make sure that your overall branding and the kind of, obviously, your address, all this kind of information is also important from an SEO perspective. Basically, obviously, showing up on Google happens because you have these kind of authoritative links from your website or to Google that kind of match it. Sometimes it can match exactly, doesn't necessarily have to, but it can be a strong signal to Google that if you have a Facebook page, that Tyson Franklin Podiatry is like a legit establishment with a specific type of address. So obviously making sure the demographic information and the name, address, phone number is the same as your real clinic.
Yeah.
But also just the overall branding, like the logos, the look and feel is as similar as you can make it. Because especially for your patients, if your website looks one way and your Facebook page looks completely different, it can be a bit of a startling thing. Or is this really the website? You've seen those pages that haven't been claimed. It almost feels like a ghost page, or is this really a thing? So that's one thing to be aware of.
Yeah, well, especially I've seen some pages where it'll have the name and it's very similar to the name, but for some reason it's just a little bit different. The logo is probably the same, but the logo on the website might be newer or older than the Facebook logo that they used. And then there's a bit of information, 2 posts that were done 4 years ago, and there's nothing else there. It's sitting there and people come to it and go, and you go off it. And I'm looking at a lot of podiatry Facebook pages purely because of what I do.
I know for certain. And I think, like you said, if there can be a little bit of a loss of trust if you go like from a website that looks super professional to like a substandard Facebook page. If people are really like looking into this clinic, it's a huge marker for whether people are going to trust you or not. So keeping it like high quality is the first thing, like from a branding perspective, but also from an information perspective. I think also when you do have a Facebook page, you have to be aware that a lot of kind of like communications are like you're already opted into those things. You'll sometimes see clinics that will get, the clinics I've worked with, they'll get these if they don't pay attention to their Facebook page a little bit, they're getting direct messages or instant messages from patients or prospective patients that don't realize if they're only checking the Facebook page like once a week and someone's not keeping an eye on it, maybe that emergency ingrown toenail person, instead of calling you or emailing your clinic, maybe they try to send you an instant message on Facebook to tell them that, oh, I have pus coming out of my toe or something. And you don't want that. Not that you have to be your staff needs to be on Facebook all the time, but it has to be a channel that is looked at. If you do have an active page currently, you can't just like necessarily set it and forget it.
Yeah, I actually find it really weird when I go to a business and then I go to Facebook and they're not actually on Facebook. I find it odd they're not on Facebook. And I know you said age groups, that Facebook target a particular age group, and some of the younger businesses are more on TikTok, Instagram, other platforms. But I still think Facebook is really important because there's so many people that are on there. So it just needs to be set up the right way.
No, for sure. And there's also things like reviews that can be on Facebook as well. They're obviously not as popular as Google reviews, but at the same time, if you have a 1 out of 5 stars on Facebook reviews, you need to do something there to facilitate that. It also becomes one of these things like, what is the right type of content to put on Facebook? And I think this is for any kind of social media platform. And usually what people try to do initially, and this is, we talked a little bit about Google ads going after the low hanging fruit. And this is like almost the opposite thing that you should be doing on Facebook, at least initially. You don't want to make every post that you write on Facebook, once you start, to be like, come make an appointment. Like, we do this thing, come make an appointment, where it's every other post is a call to action, or it's really like trying to squeeze people to like make appointments on Facebook. Because when they're scrolling, and if they do like your clinic, it is important to realize that like, you want there to be helpful information, because they're not searching on Facebook to like go make an appointment. So it has to be more palatable materials that might interest them in some way different than just come make an appointment now.
Yeah, well, I don't go into Facebook to find out what my dentist, what special he's got on for teeth whitening right now. It's not why I'm there. I'm there to catch up family, friends, and occasionally there's certain businesses that I do follow, and I know they post on a regular basis. So I do seeing that information coming through, especially hamburger places.
Yeah, you're a big burger guy. I can tell some of the burgers you've been posting recently have made me want to head out straight for the burger joint and grab one. So the stuff that you share it shows personality. I think that's what we're going to get into now is, if I don't ask people to like make appointments on my Facebook post, then what should I do? Right. And like, like I said, it's about creating content that's going to be palatable and that way. As far as, for example, let's say you sign a partnership with a local physio clinic, right? The nice thing about that is you have the ability to link to their Facebook page and provide value for them, and say that these two community stalwarts of the community are getting together to provide, the care at the, let's say, Los Angeles Marathon or something, or we're working together to work with this type of patient. People like to see that kind of stuff on Facebook, like people working together and collaborating in the community. And I think that's an important component, as well as like highlighting your community and your community involvement. If you're sponsoring a soccer team or a hockey team, or there's a diabetes walk that you're helping sign people up for, it's a way for you to use kind of your platform to show that you are an important member of the community that's not just trying to like grab. We all need to see patients, right? But Facebook's the platform more to show that you are that involved community member, more than it is just to like squeeze out a new patient visit with every type of post you put on your Facebook.
Yeah, but I think you can look at other pages that you may like yourself, other businesses, and you have a look at some of them that have got hundreds of thousands of people that actually like and follow them and comment and really engage with those pages. And if you look at those particular pages and go, why do people like this page? What is it about them that they like? And then you try and use some of those ideas in your own business, because I know there's certain pages that I follow that they do some things on there that have really got nothing to do with their actual business itself. So for example, I've said to some podiatrists, if you like wine, you can do a wine review and put that on your Facebook page for your business. And you'll get certain patients that will go, hey, my podiatrist does these really cool wine reviews. And they'll start following you for the wine reviews, not for the food advice. But they'll see some of the food advice because they're eager to learn more about your wine reviews.
No, that's a good point. I think it's also an opportunity to highlight your staff in some interesting ways. It is about, like you talked about, the wine reviews is an interesting idea, but just like highlighting not only like clinical aspects of your staff, but maybe someone in your staff volunteers at the local like animal shelter, or does these crazy like ultra trail marathons or something. Just, it's an opportunity to create content that is like relatively engaging, right? I think some of the stuff that I've seen recently that might be more engaging to other folks is APMA, for example, has been doing a lot of, an athlete gets a specific type of injury, whether it be a football player, baseball player, basketball player, and they'll highlight that player and say they have a Liz Frank's injury or something. So like making something like more than just we do bunions, or like something that people don't want to see come in their feed, something that it doesn't have to be super sizzly or super juicy, but something that's more than just we're open, come see us for an ingrown toenail. Because that's better off. Low hanging fruit is better off on a platform like Google Ads. Like you really want to make your social content, like I said, about you, your community, highlighting things that are like that people find interesting when they're scrolling. Because they're not, like I said, they're not typing in a lot of kind of like keywords to go find stuff. You're just showing up in their feed when they're on Facebook.
Do you think podiatrists should actively be telling the patients, hey, we have a Facebook page, and encouraging them to follow it, but there has to be a reason for the patient to want to follow it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's only so much we can ask of our patients. I think it's good to have them follow it. I think the kind of like the more likes, the better. But even now, there's definitely some shortcomings of the platform that are becoming more noticeable. It's shifted from a very strong, organic kind of reach platform to now being a lot of kind of pay for play. And maybe in a future podcast, we'll talk more about Facebook or Instagram advertising. I think to me, it's really about having enough stuff that I don't think it has to be something you do every day, but I think 1 or 2 posts a week to show that like you are on there and doing things is important. Unless you just already have a huge number of people that like your page. The problem becomes that like only 1 or 2% of the people that like your page actually see it these days. It's getting lower and lower every year for that kind of organic reach. I think it is like you talked about, whenever someone shows up on your Facebook, you want them to have that kind of like internal feeling that it feels legitimate. It doesn't feel like a ghost town, and it highlights some of these community staff, like interesting messages, as opposed to trying to turn blood out of a stone every time you're posting about that you have open slots or appointments available. It's a harder platform than it used to be, especially with the lack of that kind of organic reach, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, what you're thinking, I know there's a lot of common mistakes that people make, which I want to ask you about, but what you're thinking on, and this was a conversation I had with someone recently. You've got your Facebook page, you may set it up for your business, but Facebook groups, setting up a group within your Facebook page. So you might have, say for example, it's Pro Arch Podiatry and you had the page, but then you might create a walking group or a running group, or it could be an exercise group that you form a group off of your actual page, and your patients that are interested in that particular area, is there more engagement in that group than there will be on your page?
I think that's a really great idea, to be honest. I think Facebook can still be a great way, like you talked about, as far as fostering small communities. You're no stranger to this, obviously, with the podiatry, the Spartans group that you have there. I think that's the
Podiatry Business Owners Club.
There we go. Sorry. Podiatry Business Owners Club, not the Podiatry Spartans. Sorry, my bad. But like,
the Podiatry Business Spartans exist, but that's a private group.
Yeah. But like I said, I think just when you're having a general business page, like I said, it's just like creating that consistent content that builds trust with people. And I don't think that content has to be amazing.
Yeah.
But like like offshoots, like creating these kind of like these groups off of it, like that have a shared purpose, like you said, for a running group or a walking group, or like a podiatry business owners group where people are getting value on a consistent basis. That stuff is almost like there's consistency and like a flywheel that will happen inside those groups where, yes, you'll have to put some of your own content occasionally, but then there's enough people contributing within that group where they'll build some kind of brand affinity towards maybe your practice or to your clinic, because you made that option available to them. But I think there are a few takeaways from just the general business page that can be helpful. I think whether we like it or not, anytime if we put a link like in our posts, most likely Facebook and a lot of other social media platforms are not going to like that, especially if it's an external link, because they want to keep people on their platform. So you probably will get more engagement on posts that do not have links like inside of them. If you're trying to link back to your clinic website or make an appointment here, they'll probably penalize that a little bit as far as the amount of people that will see it. Usually, you never just want to I would say never put a text only post. Like Facebook is becoming more obviously photo, but heavily video centric. People want to see engaging, moving pictures when they're scrolling. Like that actually help them stop scrolling a bit. And also the format of either the video or the picture you're using should be something that has colors that will trigger them maybe to stop. I don't know if anyone listening to podcasts has seen some of the videos that Tyson and I have put either on Facebook or on some social platforms where we have our very subtle green logo.
Very subtle.
But there's a reason why we use that color of green, is that like when people see that green, they probably think of us. And if they think relatively highly of us, maybe they'll stop and watch 5, 10, a minute of a clip. But like the type of content you put in those posts the format of it will have a huge impact as well, as far as how much people are engaging with it. Because if people continue to scroll by it, then that's a huge signal to Facebook that like, this is not worth showing to other people because no one wants to check it out. So those are some small tips I would say to be aware of when building out content on your Facebook page.
Okay. Another question I wanted to ask you about, and I mentioned this, I say off air before I press record, was there's a lot of podiatrists that will have their Facebook page for their business, but they're on their personal page. It's almost like they're embarrassed to be a podiatrist. They don't put anything on their personal page that they actually have a podiatry business. So what's your thinking on that? Should they do it, or should they try and hide and not be seen?
It really depends on the individual. I think, especially as we learn more about these kind of Web2 platforms and how they try to basically use AI and all kinds of stuff to like, not only the preferences we give to them that they'll advertise against, but also scan photos to see. They probably know you like burgers just because of the number of photos of burgers you've had. They had these AI bots scan that. So I don't know if maybe I'm a little more, I wouldn't say paranoid, but I'm a little bit more aware of this being in marketing myself. It's one of these things where these companies, since it's a free platform, they're trying to monetize you, and you share what you feel like. I share what I feel comfortable with. Yeah, exactly. Look at all those burgers. Like he's the burger man. But I think there's nothing, I think it's one of those things where I think you can't, I think it's a personal choice, to be honest. Like I use my social channels, to be honestly, mostly in a professional sense. Like I have small kids that I don't necessarily want to have on social media.
Yeah.
So I don't show that side of my life, scrubbing into a case or showing you in the clinic. I think some people got into podiatry or into medicine, so they could feel like they didn't have to market themselves. I think now, knowing what I know, having seen different sides of not only podiatry, but of marketing, like every action you take is an act of marketing. You're kidding yourself if you're not thinking that what you do in the real world or online is some form of marketing. Not that you have to be in your own head too much, but I think it's just one of those things like how much, it's not a 9-to-5 job being a physician or a podiatrist. Like how much do you want to extend that into your personality, and how much does someone really see their identity tied to the profession? So I think you do a great job. I think you do a great job of showing kind of obviously you're not currently practicing, but having that kind of human connection side, it can also bring people in. It can be hugely valuable. They see that you're a burger guy, or you like wine, or you like to have a beer here and now. It makes you a real person. I think for a long time, doctors, I don't know if it was necessarily podiatrists, but doctors saw themselves at this like very like high pedestal we put ourselves on. We go through all this school, all this residency. So like, you should do what I say because I did all this stuff. And then things like Dr. Google and other stuff came along, and almost feels like a direct affront to all the time, effort, and money we spent to become a physician. And then I think it's natural to maybe have a bit of pushback to some of these channels, but for those people who choose to engage, you'll see it on people that have huge YouTube channels or have huge, I think there's like someone on TikTok, a podiatrist on TikTok who has like 1.4 million followers or something. And she can monetize that in ways beyond just clinical practice. So it becomes one of these things that it's like, it is a personal choice, but I think you're right. There is an avenue to grow an audience besides just having a vanilla like podiatry clinic website. If people choose to these days, it's got to be a personal choice, and you have to put time and consistent effort into it. Even the personal stuff, like you don't have to be too calculated, but if you're super inconsistent on your personal, or you're super inconsistent on your podiatry business page, it says something about you as a person or as a podiatrist potentially.
Yeah. In regards to your personal page, I always post the stuff about the podiatry clinic, what we were doing, even with my podcasting stuff now, or business coaching. If I'm running an event, I still put that on my personal page. And if I ever had a friend that said to me, "Oh, Tyson, I'm not going to I don't want to be friends anymore because you put too much work stuff on your personal page," I go, fine. Wouldn't bother me. So I've never really had a problem with it, but I do understand some people want to keep it separate, but something you said I think is really important. On the weekends, when you're out and about, your patients see you. They recognize you. They're watching what you're doing, and they're watching you from afar. So if you're wearing a pair of thongs around and a dirty singlet with a hole in it, and your ass hanging out of your pants, smoking a cigarette, your patients are seeing you. So to try and think, oh no, I want to keep my personal life completely separate on Facebook so they don't know what I'm doing. To me, they're seeing you anyway. So I think you've always got to have your spidey senses on.
Yeah, no, I think there's a huge opportunity there. Like I said, we all live in public now, whether we like to or not. Obviously, I think when we put for example, you and I, like when we put our podcast, podiatry marketing podcast things on our personal channels, I think there are people genuinely interested, our friends or our colleagues or past workmates, people we've chosen to be friends on these platforms. Some of them are super curious to see what we're up to, whether we're going to win or lose or fall on our face or stutter on a podcast. It does take a certain level of confidence and not necessarily trust, but just like to put yourself out there on some of these channels. But I think when you're providing value and you're creating win situations for other people, it's not just us. I'm not on this podcast for an hour talking about how I'm the greatest marketer in the world and how I'm going to bring somebody like 50 new patients next month, and neither are you, right? So,
oh, damn it, aren't you? I was waiting for that.
I'm sure it's going to happen some month, but maybe March or April, not January or February, but that wouldn't be the worst outcome. But at the same time, like you and I are aligned because we want to produce that value for people and getting it out there, whether it's a podiatrist trying to show that they're trying to do the best for their community by sponsoring events or volunteering at a marathon. There's no shame in kind of creating awareness about what you do. I think in the old school days, there was this kind of, we're on a pedestal. We don't have to do that. We have our degrees, not necessarily bow down before us, but you have no say. It's a very kind of hierarchical relationship, but for good or for bad now, people feel like they know as much as we do as podiatrists. So we have to meet them somewhere in the middle now. And by making yourself human also is appealing to people. They don't necessarily want to see you as, you are their doctor, but at the same time, you're that person they could grab a beer with or someone that can have like a human conversation with them and not talk down to them. It's something I think is, especially generations younger than us, like really values maybe even more than our generation and the older generations.
But I think it's true, like wrapping it, because we're getting towards the end of the podcast, but like you said, it's taking what you're doing in the community and taking parts of your life and bringing that into Facebook and making the page more interesting. I find quotes, funny comics, those sorts of things, we used to get more engagement from our patients from a good quote that got everyone motivated, or a funny cartoon or a funny short video that you shared seemed to get more engagement than anything we posted about podiatry.
Yeah, that's sometimes can be a hit. You just have to find your own voice in it. And that's definitely something to consider.
Okay. So as we wrap up, have you got a final tip or anything else you want to say about Facebook before we finish?
No, I think there's all this kind of controversy around Facebook tracking. I think that's one thing we didn't really touch on. We'll probably talk more like when we talk about Facebook and social advertising, but I think Facebook is still a powerful platform. There's a lot of people, I would say, 40 and over on it, trying to find old high school classmates and looking at people's puppies and memes and doing God knows what, and some of the kind of stuff that's really engaging at Facebook. But it is a place that you want to build trust, and you don't want it to be a ghost town. If you're going to do it, like I said, at least 2 posts a week on stuff that's relevant, interesting, helpful to people, inspiring, like you mentioned, and just keeping it like on your radar. It doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest platform beyond your website, but it's something that is still relevant and should be considered, when you're trying to increase awareness and visibility in your local area.
Yeah. And if anybody is listening to this and they want to track me down on Facebook, just look for Tyson E. Franklin. I'm pretty easy to find. And I'm a fun guy too. So if you want to friend me on Facebook, I am open to it. Just send me a friend request. And I think, Jim, I don't know if you're as friendly as me. If someone sends you a friend request, but you're like, nah, piss off.
I'm both American and Canadian. I'm like double friendly, right? So now that I live in Canada. But yeah, if people can figure out how to spell my last name, McDaniel, McDaniald, they'll be able to either find me or my brother's neuroscience lab on Facebook probably. Yeah, hit me up there, or you can reach out to Tyson and I on our website, podiatry.marketing is that URL, and leave a voicemail. We're definitely got a lot of ideas for future episodes, but open to hearing from the community that's listening to make sure that we can provide a lot of relevant, helpful information for private practice podiatrists who are trying to make it out there. So no, we're excited to continue this podcast and happy to have everyone as listeners.
That's awesome. Okay. I'm going to talk to you next week, Jim.
Sounds great, Tyson.
Okay. See ya.